Good morning. Getting out of the house today was a little bit more challenging. I'm running a little behind. My girls went to a Harry Styles concert last night and they're just over the moon about it. So one of my daughters had a ticket because she was going with a friend. This is the concert that was supposed to go off in 2019. And originally, I guess tickets were, under $200. But as time went on, people were really pumping up the prices on tickets, and they were as high as, $1,400 or something for the pit. And regular tickets were in the fours. So two of my daughters, my 22-year-old and my 14-year-old, went to Boston together, and their plan was to stay on the app and keep looking at prices and grab tickets when they were reasonable enough to buy. I told them $250 was like the limit, which I still think is outrageous. I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s and we didn't pay those kind of prices for anything. So they kept going on the app and the prices were $900 and $800 and $700, back up to $800, and then suddenly they found tickets for $305. So they grabbed them and they went to the door, and it turned out that they grabbed tickets for Atlanta, and they were just crushed. So now they have $600 and something worth of tickets and they couldn't get in. So a really, really kind soul at the door felt badly for them. My 14-year-old was just beside herself in tears, and he said, let's see what we can do. And he grabbed pit bracelets and brought them down to the pit, and they were like just feet away from Harry Styles, and they're just over the moon today. So anyway, they're really tired. They got home really, really late last night, but we don't miss school. So that's the deal. If you're going to do something in the middle of the week, you still have to get up and go to school. So they had very few hours of sleep and kind of slept till the very last second, and I dragged them out of bed and got them to school. So anyway, so everything at the practice is going very well. It's been busy, and I met another new patient who, similar kind of story to some of the others that I've told you, that since she was in her 20s and 30s, she had mono more than one time, which is unusual. And after that, she started having a lot of different symptoms and reactions and allergy type problems and gastrointestinal issues and food sensitivities and allergies to topical things, and just really struggling to figure it all out. And by the time she was in her mid-30s, she just basically stopped trying to figure it out with the help of a provider, because she felt crazy. She felt like they didn't really want to listen to her, or they didn't have time to listen to her, or it would go the opposite direction. And she said that they would just barricade her with tons of expensive testing and never come up with any answer, because in her situation, MRIs, CAT scans, blood tests, a lot of them, they're not going to show what's going on. So we had a nice meet and greet appointment yesterday and really connected, and it was just amazing. She was so thankful that we got to dig in just a little bit, and she's happy to at least be somewhere that she can be heard, number one, and not feel uncomfortable about explaining what her symptoms are, because they're real, and not be dismissed and not also be, overrun with needless testing. But the story that she described is kind of similar to a couple of the other stories that I've recently told you, that she screams autoimmunity. And as we started talking, she was telling me about all her systemic symptoms, her gastrointestinal symptoms, her skin issues, her eczema, which autoimmune. As she was talking, she started talking about how in her private area, she has that same issue that I was just talking about with those other patients. That lichen sclerosis problem was what she was describing. And she said it felt really uncomfortable, almost like a yeast infection. Nothing she put on it would make any difference. She started limiting the amount of physical activities like squats and things like that were difficult for her because her skin was cracking open. Just like I was telling you before, it's a really commonly missed problem that the tissues stick together. It's an autoimmune mediated issue that the parts start to stick together in the private area, in the vulva. And when people do certain movements, or they wipe or have a bowel movement, they tear and they get these little cuts, and it's incredibly painful. So anyway, just screams autoimmunity, and we really need to start diving in and trying to pick things apart. And, you know, even if we can't figure out exactly which foods she can eat and can't eat, or exactly which products she can use topically or not, at least defining that there's a problem and understanding that there's a problem and being able to support someone through the symptoms and help to navigate the system to get them into specialists that will understand and listen is just so important. Just to have that support and someone there to at least listen and at least treat the symptoms at the same time that we're trying to dig into the problem and see what we can do to make this better. So I thought I'd share that story with you. And oh, my heart was just breaking for this woman yesterday, because I mean, she's been doing this for decades and suffering for decades. And this was the first time that she ever felt like someone actually wanted to understand or had the time to try to understand. And my heart just breaks for people like that, because I know there are so many of them out there still. And how do you find them? You know, how do you reach them? How do you get a chance to have a conversation with them? So if you know anyone that's struggling and just really feels like they need better support, needs to be heard, needs better preventative care, doesn't feel like they're getting a really complete physical, that's always where we start. So with her, we're starting with finding the health, meaning getting her in for her executive wellness exam, doing all of the kinds of testing that we do, finding where things are going right and really trying to augment that as much as possible, and then also looking for places where we can mitigate risk for chronic disease processes and give her really good longevity and quality of life. So I think even just yesterday, just meeting her for that short time, it made a really big difference, and I feel so good about that, and I'm really excited to tackle it and move forward with it. Have a great day.